Welcome back, everybody. It's Tuesday, June 11th, 2024. Now, born on this date in 1904, early boogie-woogie pianist Pinetop Smith, born in Troy and raised in Birmingham. He was shot and killed in Chicago at age 24. But the record Pinetop's Boogie Woogie was a huge influence on that strain of music, which in turn was a big part of what would become rock and roll. Today is National Corn on the Cob Day. Y'all know what to do there. It's also National Forklift Safety Day, so no fooling about in the warehouse. Today we'll have a little more on the girl who was critically injured by a shark. We have a fairly new anti-stalking law being put to use, and the show will go on, at least for now, for the Coral Reefer Band. In the second segment, we have a report that'll explain why UAB has stopped doing state prison autopsies. It's related to the alleged missing organs cases we've talked about before here. My name's Ike Morgan, and we're down in Alabama. "15-year-old shark attack victim Lulu Gribben has been alert and talking with visitors, including Matthew Lytle, the man who carried her back to the beach after the shark bit off a hand and injured a leg so badly it had to be amputated," reports AL.com's Carol Robinson. Lulu, who's from Mountain Brook, is one of 3 victims from 2 attacks on Friday along the Gulf Coast in Walton County, Florida. Her friend, 16-year-old McCrae Faust, was also bitten but did not have extensive injuries. Lytle said he took Lulu from a man who was helping her keep away from the shark. He took her back to the beach, where at least 2 doctors and a nurse were nearby and able to treat her as best they could before she was life-flighted to Pensacola. After speaking with her, Lytle said he was surprised how well she sounded. Quote, "I was so glad to hear she was alive because after seeing that, I wasn't sure." Now, AL.com's Lawrence Specker spoke with Sean Powers. Now, he's the director of the University of South Alabama's Stokes School of Marine and Environmental Sciences. He's a senior marine scientist at the Dauphin Island Sea Lab, and he's considered one of Alabama's top marine scientists. We'll never have proof whether the same shark was involved in both of Friday's attacks, which occurred about 90 minutes and 4 miles apart. But even given this unlikely scenario that played out, Powers says he believes it's more likely that feeding conditions just happened to be similar in those places so that the predators were aggressively chasing bait fish into the shallows. He said that despite Friday's rare and scary events, there doesn't seem to be a trend to be concerned about here. As a matter of fact, he thought with more people going to the Gulf Coast beaches and government efforts to rebuild the shark population, it's surprising that attacks have not risen more than they have. Now, I know somebody out there just heard the phrase government efforts to rebuild the shark population and thought, what next, government? Killer bees? But of course, the predator sharks play an important role in the Gulf's ecological balance. I know you don't want to hear that if your kid was just attacked, but Lawrence asked Powers about this, and Powers gave the example of too few predator sharks causing the cownose and stingray populations to skyrocket, which in turn would lead to shellfish and shrimp populations declining, not to mention the carpet of stingrays along the beach. A law that was passed in Alabama just last year was used to lock up a man who's been accused of placing a tracking device on his ex-wife's vehicle, reports AL.com's Carol Robinson. Now, it's a good idea to be aware of this law, especially if you have control issues or a jealous bone. Technology being what it is, we're likely to see more folks ending up on the wrong side of this one. The relatively new law makes it illegal to place a tracking device on the property of another person. Now, in this week's case, a 43-year-old Enterprise man has been charged with second-degree domestic violence / stalking and first-degree electronic stalking. Dothan police said the man had sent threatening texts or made phone calls to the victim more than 50 times over 8 days. They also said that the victim looked at her home surveillance video and saw her ex crawl out from underneath her vehicle, and that's when she found the tracking device. The man's being held without bond in the Houston County Jail. Not long after Jimmy Buffett passed away last year, the parrot heads among us, and I know many of you are in their ranks, while grieving the loss of a hero, also lamented never getting to see a finale of a live show. And maybe there isn't one, or maybe there's one going on this summer. Parrot heads spent months on social media debating whether there can be a next best thing event to make what has become a pilgrimage for many to Buffett concerts. Now, could there be a stand-in for Buffett like a Kenny Chesney, or a rotation of all-star men and women to front the Coral Reefer Band? Or do you just shut it down and keep the memories? Well, the answer, at least for now, is that the Coral Reefer Band is doing a handful of tribute shows over the summer, reports AL.com's Lawrence Specker, and one will be at the Wharf Amphitheater in Orange Beach. Of course, there are singers in that band, and a couple of members, like Buffett, are from Alabama. Mac McAnally of Red Bay is a fan favorite, award-winning guitarist and singer and a songwriter on many Buffett pieces. And Will Kimbrough of Mobile has played with the Reefers and is another of Buffett's favorite songwriting buddies. Others that'll be with the band include steel drums player Robert Greenidge, who goes back to the early 80s with the band, and pedal steel player Doyle Grisham, who goes all the way back to 1974. Backup singers Nadira Shakur and Tina Gullickson have sang with Buffett for about 3 decades. The Coral Reefers will play the Wharf in Orange Beach on Thursday, August 1st. Tickets go on sale Friday on Ticketmaster. Let's do a really quick break. We'll be back in a flash and talk about UAB, autopsies, and stolen organs. Thanks for staying with us, everybody. Let's go to Amanda Karamabadi for an update on UAB's role in prison autopsies.
The families of 5 dead Alabama prisoners are saying that the state's largest hospital, specifically their pathology department, has been stealing inmates' organs. UAB Hospital has decided to stop performing autopsies on dead state inmates following lawsuits filed a few months ago. The 5 inmates who died while serving time all had their autopsies performed by UAB. Following their autopsies, the inmates' bodies were sent to different funeral homes. In several cases, funeral directors found that they were missing their organs. In an autopsy, organs are removed from the body, but they are typically placed back in the body once the process is complete. The families say they tried contacting UAB once they found out about the missing organs, but they were all met with different answers as to why the organs were retained. The university allegedly told one of those families the department was no longer in 100% possession of their loved ones' organs. Another family alleges that someone from the pathology department told them UAB is a teaching institution. Every teaching institution that does autopsies keeps the organs. Let's look closer at this medical mystery. The prison system and UAB have an agreement for UAB to perform autopsies for them as an independent contractor. The Alabama Department of Corrections pays $2,200 per autopsy and $100 per toxicology test. These rates are less than what UAB charges the general public. From 2006 to 2015, around half of the pathology department's yearly income came from the Alabama Department of Corrections and the Alabama Department of Forensic Sciences. All people who die in state custody have autopsies performed, either at the Alabama Department of Forensic Sciences or at UAB. And this is where there are some legal discrepancies in the agreement. It authorizes wardens to grant permission for UAB to retain organs without the consent of next of kin or the deceased inmate. And according to the lawsuits that were filed, this is against Alabama law. This is not legal. Another reason UAB is getting sued is because they allegedly retained something of value. In this case, human remains, to the detriment of the deceased and their family's rights. According to the lawsuit, UAB also benefited from this arrangement. I don't know if you know this, but body parts and bodies are expensive. A 2017 article from Reuters found prices range from $350 for a foot to $10,000 for a whole human body. Lauren Farino, an attorney representing the families suing the hospitals, said the recent termination of the contract will have no bearing on the pending litigations.
Thank you, Amanda. And thank everybody out there for giving us the time. We'll be back with another report tomorrow. Until then, Y'all come by and see what we're doing on the internet anytime you want to at al.com.